Hey guys, it's Charles D'Angelo. I just finished up my Saturday workout, and before I finished up, as is very typical in my life, a gentleman who was in the gym and really struggling to work out, who was morbidly overweight. He probably weighed 300, maybe 350 pounds. I mean, getting up and off of the bench to talk to me looked to be a challenge for him. He came up to me, and as he stood in front of me, and he was kind of short of breath from the little walk he had to make over to me, he asked me what would be the one thing I would recommend that he change today to begin to really see monumental, massive changes in his entire body, to really recondition his physical health, his vitality, to have more energy, to be healthier, and to really start to lose the fat that he wants to lose. And I get those types of questions all the time, whether it be in email form or when I'm out at a restaurant or when I'm walking in the mall, wherever I am. It got me thinking, so I wanted to put together this real short video just to help you at home as you're watching this make the change that he's looking to make if you haven't already made it. Perhaps you've already made some really massive changes, but I think that without the change I'm going to tell you about here in a second, that the changes you're making will be short-lived. And let me tell you why. I think the most powerful change that you can ever make in any facet of your life is changing your mind. And you say, well, yeah, duh, change your mind. Of course, that's what you have to do. But I don't think that many people really grasp just how important that fact is. So many people change their circumstances. You know, they'll be in a bad relationship, and rather than doing any work on themselves and changing inwardly, right, they go to another relationship. Or maybe there's someone that just generally, maybe they're not happy at their job, and they're miserable all the time, and they don't get along with any of their coworkers, and they tell themselves, well, it's because of where I am. And they leave that position and go to another facility or another business, only to find themselves in the same issue. Do you have any friends maybe that have had multiple marriages and you've seen that they've married the same person about 7 times just with a different name? I mean, so many people look to change everything outside of themselves rather than changing the real thing that causes everything to change, which is yourself. So I think that the thing that that gentleman needs to change and that you can start to change today, I know that certainly I had to change when I lost 160 pounds and really reconditioned my body, was changing my mind. I had to make a decision. I had to decide that no longer was I going to live by this substandard set of behaviors, of beliefs, of settling for what other people around me settle for. Just because you're in an environment that isn't up to your ultimate potential, it doesn't mean that you have to be a product of that environment. Think about people that have come from the most dire of circumstances. I mean, they have been at the bottom of the barrel. They have nothing. They don't have the resources around them, but some way they make it all change. They make this decision, and all of a sudden, all of these opportunities start to come to them. I think that happens when you create the inward change that I'm talking about. Now, the thing is the ultimate question is, well, how do you get to that point, or how do you create that inward change? How do you make the decision that no longer you're going to be the way that you've been for so long? First and foremost, I think it comes with getting honest. You know, I have people every week that come that want me to consider taking them as a client. Just this week I had a woman come to see me, and I mean, she had this great story that it wasn't invalid. She was abused when she was a child. She was then in a series of very unfulfilling, terrible relationships. She started to cope using food as a tool to change how she felt, and she finds herself now today in her mid-40s in a very unsatisfactory relationship with a man she's been married to, where she has no intimacy. She is not at all content with how she looks. She doesn't want to be in pictures with her kids. She finds it difficult to go out and socialize. I mean, do you know anyone like that? Maybe you yourself are feeling that way. Nonetheless, I immediately told her the first step that she has to take to really take charge of this thing that seems to her to be out of her control, which is not out of her control at all, is to rearrange and retell herself a better story, rewrite her script, as I say. Get real with yourself. Look, we all can focus in on things in our life that can make us feel like crap. I mean, we all have stuff that happens to us, whether it be years ago, whether it be right now. If we choose to focus in on those things, we can make ourselves feel terrible. We can ask ourselves, why live another day, right? I mean, there are people dying every day without any explanation as to why. There are people that are good people, right, that have terrible things happen to them. And if you choose to focus in on those things and make that your reality, not that that's invalid, but to make that your entire reality, to selectively filter everything out so that you only focus in on those negatives, well, of course, the meaning you're going to get from that is life is terrible. And you're going to look for a way to comfort yourself. And most often in our Western society, the most available, easy, accessible, and understood drug is unhealthy food. Well, not everyone wants to hear that their script is wrong. She took it, well, let's just put it this way. She didn't like that I told her that she needed to change the script she was living by. And she was crying and telling me, how could I say that it was wrong of her to use food to change how she felt. I mean, it was so tragic. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that if she continues to do that, she's certainly not going to have the quality of life that she deserves and ultimately she really desires, right? So if you want to make the change that I'm talking about, if you want to change inwardly, you've got to get honest. The reality is this: you're on a path right now, okay? The path is leading you somewhere. It is taking you forward. Question is, where is it taking you? The choices you're making today do have consequences. It is a lie to tell yourself that the little things you're doing day after day don't add up. They certainly do. If you're not making a decision to be strategic rather than spontaneous, you're going to end up 2, 3, 4 years from now at a place you never even thought or dreamed, or had a nightmare rather, of being. So you've got to start to make the small distinctions to direct your life in a way that you want it to go. You can't expect that your life is going to change by changing your location. Okay? The cool thing about America is this: if you want to change your location, you're welcome to. You're not a tree. Just because where you are right now is not a good place, it doesn't mean that you have to stay there. But I would definitely recommend, before changing the relationship you're in, changing the business that you work for, or changing into a new diet, I would start to do some work on yourself. Step one, get real. Be honest. Tell yourself, look, I'm unhappy with where I am. Sometimes that pain is helpful. When a person comes to me and they're just crying and crying and crying, some people from the outside looking in, if they didn't understand the context of my work, will say, wow, he's really a jerk. I mean, he just lasers right in and makes these people feel the pain. Well, the point is that you've got to get associated. You've really got to get connected to the pain of your current decisions. If you continue to ameliorate your pain, to totally just numb it by saying, well, yeah, you know, I'm not that good right now, but it's probably going to get better. Or you say, well, yeah, I'm not that good right now, but compared to my past, I'm much better than I used to be. If you use those type of tactics to comfort yourself, rather than make the decision to step into that uncertain place where not everything's planned, where you can't exactly know where you're headed, but you know that it's better than where you are right now. If you're not willing to really get fully associated and fully connected to the amount of pain that you'll experience, if you don't make the changes you know you should be making, not change your environment, but change you, you'll never experience life at the highest level that you're capable of. So, in essence, what I told that gentleman and what I'm telling you is this: if you want to see an outward change, you've got to start inwardly. Everything that you see around you is a product of what started here. You know, everything in my office here, from the picture with President Clinton to meeting Dan Radcliffe to helping people lose hundreds and hundreds of pounds, it all started in my mind as a vision, as this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do everything in my human power to help inspire, motivate, and change people for the better, using every gift God's given me. So I never really focused on, you know, well, I'm not this, or I'm young, or this or that. I just said, I know this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. And you have to get to the place where not only do you associate yourself to the pain of the present, so first step, get real. Number two, associate yourself to the pain of your current situation and behaviors. Step three is, I would say, get excited about what's possible when you change. Think about how much joy, how much satisfaction, how much control you're going to feel knowing that with a change inwardly, everything on the outside changes. I mean, with that type of knowing, with that type of experience, when you really experience that, when you've really made the changes and you see in your life that everything's changed because of you, I mean, there's no greater satisfaction. I speak from experience, having lost 160 pounds and done all sorts of other things that at one time would have seemed like a pipe dream to me. I'm here to tell you today that anything you want to experience in your world is possible if you'll start by working on yourself first. Start by changing that inward part of you, that part of you, that voice of doubt. Change that into a voice of certainty, a voice of inspiration. something that's continually feeding you motivation rather than getting you to question everything. Because I'm here to tell you, regardless of your religious beliefs, the devil, evil, whatever you want to say, would love for you to stay in a state of misery. Because if you're miserable, you're not really going to have the quality of life you want, and you're definitely not going to be able to help other people have the quality of life that they want. So start changing inwardly by getting honest with yourself. Get fully connected to the amount of pain you're going to experience if you don't make some changes today that are simple. You know, that's the cool part, is that here in America, there's a big controversy right now about raising the minimum wage, right? About, well, people should deserve some more. I don't really believe that personally, because I believe that you're going to start at the bottom no matter what. If the bottom's $4, if the bottom's $7, if the bottom's $10, whatever. The point about America is this: the ladder is endless. You can just keep climbing and climbing and climbing, and the same is true for health. You know, what's the limit on health you can have? You know, how healthy can you become? If you're willing to pay the price of discipline, to make the small decisions, hour after hour, day after day, week after week, month after month, those small decisions, they compound, almost like in the financial world, like interest compounds. And sooner than you know it, you are more health wealthy than you could have ever dreamed of, simply by making the choice to choose the apple over the candy bar, to have breakfast rather than rush out the door out of convenience, to get a little extra sleep rather than stay up late and watch programs which really are mindless, right? By making those small choices, your entire future can be different. It's my hope today that after watching this video, you're going to make some minor changes, some decisions. You're going to realize that you don't have to change your environment right now to change your reality. By starting with you, by making some decisions to start to look at the world differently, to not focus in on what's wrong, but to focus in on what's right, and to focus in on not on what's out of your control, but to focus in on what you can control. And here's the ultimate secret, the secret that changed my life. While you can't control what's happening, you can definitely control what those things that are happening mean to you. You know, for somebody that grows up in a terribly toxic environment, I grew up in a family of not only obesity, but of substance abuse. For someone that grew up in that environment that didn't look at the world the way I look at it, they could have ended up in jail, in and out of rehab and drug centers, having adopted the worldview of those around them. For another person, they look at that and they say, I'm never going to allow myself to go down that path. I'm going to learn from this. They ask themselves, what can I take from this? You know, not why is this happening? They ask a better question. Why is this happening to me? So that what is it that I'm meant to learn from this? They're not asking, why me? They're saying, what's the lesson here? Why is this happening, and what do I need to learn from this? What's God, the higher energy, whatever you choose to believe in, religiously, spiritually, trying to teach me? Because I think that life is happening for you to teach you things, to help you grow. I don't think things just happen accidentally. I mean, can you think in your life of times wherein, you know, things just flowed? I mean, they just lined up. You know, you didn't plan for everything to work out, but somehow God stepped in. And lastly, before I let you go here, as I near a 15-minute video, I meant to be like 2 minutes, I think the one thing that I could also tell you is this. You've probably been through some really tragic, sad stuff, and maybe you have a lot of reasons to feel down and a lot of reasons to feel depressed and to feel sad. But I take a lot of solace in knowing that God's taking you this far for a reason. If you made it through all that stuff that, looking back, could have destroyed you emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, financially, and you're still here, you've got to ask yourself, what does God have intended for you in the future? How could you ask yourself, why me, when God saw you through everything already? You're still here. There's something greater out there for you. Your job is to work on yourself so that as these opportunities appear to you, you're ready to take advantage of them and to really capitalize on them. Have an awesome weekend, and I'll talk to you soon. God bless.